When Stephanie White was asked after the game whether she was surprised by the incident, having coached Thomas before, she replied that she went back to see it and was surprised, but more surprised that it was not seen by the officials in real time. Yet as the footage clearly shows, both the official and Stephanie White had a clear view of what happened, which makes her claim of not seeing it far more difficult to accept. When Stephanie White was asked after the game whether she was surprised by the incident, having coached Thomas before, she replied that she went back to see it and was surprised, but more surprised that it was not seen by the officials in real time. Yet as the footage clearly shows, both the official and Stephanie White had a clear view of what happened, which makes her claim of not seeing it far more difficult to accept. Let's talk about exactly what happened because the replay does not lie, as
listen to Stephanie White, having coached AT before, were you surprised by the incident? Listen to Stephanie's reply.
Went back to see it. Yeah, I was surprised. I was more surprised that it wasn't seen by the officials in real time.
So Stephanie says she was surprised she didn't see it in real time. As you can see right here, Stephanie White clearly saw it as I broke down. You see, seen by both the official and Steph.
6 minutes and 50 seconds left in the second quarter. Clark goes down to the floor during a loose ball scramble and Thomas is right there on top of her, pressing her knee into Clark's groin while Clark is already going down, then putting a closed fist directly into Clark's throat, and after all of that, stepping right over her body like she is a piece of furniture on the floor. And that is not a basketball play and not incidental contact, but a knee to the groin, a fist to the throat, and Thomas just walks away, with the referees right there in the middle of the floor in plain sight and not one whistle. And Clark stayed in the game for a while after that but left in the third quarter with a back injury as the Fever lost by 2 points, competing hard until Clark was gone. None of this is new from Thomas, because back in 2024 she took Clark out with a hard body check that the refs also swallowed their whistles on, and the league basically moved on and won analysis.
Streaking to the basket, and here's what hustle plays are all about. You got 3 Phoenix players around Caitlin Clark, and yeah, it's.
I mean, Caitlin to the ground, and ooh, that's a hand to the neck, and then Alyssa Thomas steps over her. See, that's the kind of stuff that can incite some future trouble.
Documented at least 4 instances of Thomas hitting Clark with cheap shots across their matchups, with only one ever called as a foul, and that call got reversed. So the pattern with Clark specifically goes back to her rookie season. But it is not just Clark, because in the 2025 playoffs Thomas hit Nafisa Collier so hard that Collier left the game with a left leg injury and has not come back since, with Cheryl Reeve losing her mind over it publicly and the whole league taking notice, while Thomas kept.
Take another look here at the heavy contact. A little bit of a shoulder there. Not a little bit, a lot of a shoulder there for Alyssa Thomas.
Yeah, they're not going to look at this. They might.
It's gotten the fans here fired up.
Playing, and then in 2025 Thomas clotheslined Angel Reese and picked up a flagrant 2 for slamming her to the ground, and during Unrivaled Thomas targeted Cameron Brink's already broken nose and went at it anyway. So we are talking about Clark, Collier, Reese, and Brink across different seasons, different competitions, and different teams, which is not a player who occasionally plays too hard but a player with a clear history of going after people in ways that cross the line, while the league keeps handing out the lightest possible response or nothing at all.
The tip was clean by Thomas.
Look at that.
And they banged knees after the Nafisa Collier.
She has 21 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists, and Fee is being helped back to the locker room. Let's go over to Angel Gray.
Yeah, I'm watching her walk through the tunnel right now. She is.
While the league keeps handing out the lightest possible response or nothing at all, and Clark leaving in the third quarter cost the Fever a 2-point game because Thomas was allowed to do whatever she wanted for most of the night. White did eventually call it egregious and called the fist to the throat crazy and dangerous and said the non-call was absolutely unacceptable. She delivered every single one of those words at a post-game press conference after the final buzzer, after the Fever already lost by 2 points, after Clark already left the building with a back injury. And the words did not cost White anything and did not change anything either. What makes the "I did not see it live" excuse so strange is that White had an entire
mini bump to the face
Oh gosh, it's got to be so tough. Cameron just with the wherewithal, getting hit and still made the basket. That was super impressive.
Her coaching staff on that bench with her, including assistants whose entire job is to track what is happening on the floor, especially when a player goes down, so someone knew, and White herself admitted she was told about it at halftime, which means she walked back out for the second half with full knowledge that her star player had been assaulted on the court during the first half, and she did not do anything visible that changed the referee's behavior or protected Clark for the rest of.
During the game, have you seen that? Did that have any impact on her health in this one?
I just saw it. I'm not sure if it had any impact on the health or her health or not. But it was egregious. The fact that it was a no call. I heard about it at halftime. I brought it to the attention of the officials at halftime. Yet we still had 11 fouls in the fourth quarter to their 2. They still shot 24 free throws in the second half.
The game, and contrast this with Minnesota Lynx head coach Cheryl Reeve after Thomas hurt Nafisa Collier in the 2025 playoffs, because Reeve did not wait for any podium but went so hard at the officials in the moment that she got ejected, calling the officiating malpractice after the game and demanding a change of leadership at the league level, which cost her a $15,000 fine believed to be the largest individual fine in WNBA history and a suspension that meant she could not coach.
Number one, you gotta call it. It's absolutely egregious and utterly disrespectful. And then number 2, you're coming in here aware of what happened 2 nights ago, and that shit still happens? Absolutely unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable.
Watch Game 4, a game the Lynx lost to end their season, so Reeve paid a real price for going to war for her player and nobody questions whether she fought for Collier, and Becky Hammon does the same thing for Aya Wilson, getting in the referees' faces, calling out the league publicly, and saying the physicality in the WNBA is out of control and would not fly in the NBA, making noise that forces people to respond, and that is what it looks like when a coach actually intends to protect her.
And the reckless closeout that they actually reviewed, and the foot still comes down on top of the defender's foot that wasn't upgraded? Absolutely disrespectful. We have a generational talent and a WNBA superstar who had 2 cheap shots right there that weren't called. And I just say again, absolutely unacceptable.
Star player, while White's response operated in a completely different register that felt managed, like someone who had already decided how much to say and how to say it without actually making the league uncomfortable or putting any real pressure on anyone. And she called the play dangerous and was right that it was dangerous, but coaches who mean business do not save that for a press conference but make it impossible for the refs in the league to ignore it while the game is still happening, and White even chalked up the missed calls to poor eye discipline from the officials, saying they were watching the ball and nobody was watching the play when a player is down, which is a reasonable technical observation but also the most bloodless possible way to describe a situation where your player got punched in the throat, and the gap between what White delivered and what Reeve or Hammon would have done is not about different personalities or coaching styles but about urgency. To understand why that urgency is missing, you have to go back to when Stephanie White was coaching Alyssa Thomas, because it is not a casual connection, as White coached Thomas at the Connecticut Sun for the 2023 and 2024 seasons, 2 full seasons, and Dewana Bonner was there too, playing under White in that same Connecticut system. So when Thomas ran that physical game plan against Clark on June 24, she was not doing it against some random opposing coach but in front of the woman who spent.
We had tonight, for the leadership to deem those 3 people semifinals playoff worthy is fucking malpractice. I don't think now we can basketball. I don't think we should have to play through more than what they did. They got mushes on the glass and it's fucking cracked. And there's no call.
2 years coaching her, who knows exactly how Thomas plays and why Thomas plays that way because White helped build it, and after White left the Sun and took the Fever head coaching job, she gave an interview where she talked about Clark's game and what she saw as a weakness in it, saying Clark does not like physicality and that is where you get her, and a coach publicly putting her own star player's weakness on record for any team in the league to hear, including the Phoenix Mercury, where
Steph, having coached AT before, were you surprised by the incident?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I didn't see it in real time, and so when I went back to see it, yeah, I was surprised. I was more surprised that it wasn't seen by the officials in real time. You know, I think the eye discipline, for lack of a better term, sometimes I feel like all the officials are watching the ball and nobody's watching the play. You have a player that's down on the ground, certainly some things are going to happen. So I was very disappointed that they didn't see that.
Alyssa Thomas now plays, and maybe White meant it as an honest scouting observation or was trying to say Clark needs to toughen up, but it does not matter what she meant because what she produced was a public blueprint that told every physical defender in the league exactly where to attack Clark, and the player most likely to hear that and act on it is the one White spent 2 seasons coaching at the Sun, because Thomas did not invent the idea of going physical at Clark but had been doing it since 2024, yet the specific framing that Clark's weakness is physicality and that is how you neutralize her sounds exactly like a coaching philosophy White developed while she was still running the Suns' defense, and Thomas plays the way she plays because players do not develop their style in a vacuum but coaches shape that, and White shaped Thomas for 2 years and then told the world how to use that style against Clark. Picture what June 24th actually looked like from that angle, because Thomas is running a physical game plan against Clark that lines up almost exactly with what White described as the way to get her. Bonner is still in the league and still connected to that whole Connecticut network, and White is standing on the opposite sideline watching her former player execute the exact approach she publicly outlined, and her response afterward is that she did not see it live, and this does not need to be some elaborate conspiracy to be a real problem but just needs to be what it plainly looks like. A coach who spent 2 years with Thomas, who knows Thomas's game inside and out, who then publicly identified Clark's weakness in a way that handed Thomas a specific target, and who now responds to Thomas crossing a serious line with carefully measured press conference language that puts no real pressure on anyone, because White knows how Thomas plays and knows Thomas is not accidentally physical but.
And you can hear Stephanie White. Just listen to what she said.
Level of physicality that they're able to play with against her. You know, I knew it as an opponent.
I knew it as an opponent. You notice when Stephanie White says a complete BS, she always got, huh? Like,
We don't like it.
We don't like it.
Sometimes it can be a blessing in disguise because everybody else finds themselves.
We don't like it.
I knew it as an opponent.
I knew it as an opponent.
We don't like
Plays with intent, and White coached that intent for 2 full seasons. So when Thomas kneed Clark in the groin and put a fist to her throat, White was not watching some stranger do something unpredictable but was watching someone she knows extremely well do something that fits entirely within how that player has always operated. And the I did not see it excuse lands completely differently once you place it next to 2 seasons of White coaching Thomas and 1 interview where White handed out the blueprint.
This is one of the wildest games I have ever watched in my life. I watched Caitlin Clark get punched in the throat. I watched Caitlin Clark get kneed in the groin, get kneed in the ribs. I watched Caitlin Clark hit the ground repeatedly. For months now, I've been talking about how Stephanie White's system will lead to a Caitlin Clark print.
Because it stops reading like a coaching staff oversight and starts reading like a choice while everyone is debating that choice. The league stepped in with its own response to what Thomas did and somehow managed to make the whole situation worse, as it was announced that Alyssa Thomas is suspended for 1 game after receiving a flagrant foul 2 penalty for recklessly making contact with her fist to the throat area of Caitlin Clark, and the WNBA announced this pretty quickly, which...
And Coach Stephanie White also said this after the game. Cheap shots, disrespectful. She's not officiated the same as other stars in this league, and she should be. She should have that grace. She should be granted that privilege to have a whistle that protects her, to have a whistle that keeps her out on the floor, to have a whistle that allows her to play her.
Was quicker than expected and also new because from what I can remember they have not upgraded any of these egregious fouls over the past 2 years to suspensions after the fact, so it is good that they took it this far and it is well deserved. But on June 25th the WNBA reviewed the Thomas incident, upgraded it to a flagrant foul 2 for recklessly making contact with her fist to the throat area of Clark, called it a non-basketball act, and handed down the punishment of 1 game, meaning Thomas will miss the Mercury's road game against the Toronto Tempo on Saturday, 1 game for a throat punch, a knee to the groin, and stepping over a player on the floor, and the league framed this as the system working, which technically is not wrong because the post-game review caught what the refs missed in real time and a penalty got applied.
Just announced that Alyssa Thomas is suspended for 1 game after receiving a flagrant foul 2 penalty for recklessly making contact with her fist to the throat of Caitlin Clark, the WNBA has announced. And this was pretty quick. This is actually quicker than I expected the WNBA to act and review the play from last night. This is also new because from what I can remember, I don't think they've upgraded anything. All of these egregious fouls that we've seen over the past 2 years, I actually don't think they've upgraded any of them to suspensions after the fact. So I'm really glad that they did take it this far. I think it's well deserved.
But 1 game is the absolute minimum serious response the league could give without looking like they did nothing at all, and everyone watching knew it, as people online were not quiet about it, with reactions ranging from calling it a joke to demanding Thomas get banned indefinitely or expelled from the league entirely. And these were not just Clark fans being dramatic, because one comment that went everywhere put it plainly that Alyssa Thomas just gets a 1-game suspension for straight up.
Should be fired. Kathy Engelbert should be out the door. This is a joke. As opposed to sending a real statement, I'm talking 10 games, 20 games, a massive fine. They have handed down a 1-game suspension to Alyssa Thomas. This league is not serious.
Throat punching Caitlin Clark. So in the WNBA you can assault your colleague and score a day off, and that is not hyperbole but just math, because 1 missed game is a day off and nothing, and the people saying it should have been 3 games minimum are not wrong either, especially when you factor in that Thomas had already tried to elbow Clark just 2 days before this incident. So we are not talking about a player who had 1 bad game but a player with a documented history of dangerous contact across multiple seasons, multiple opponents, and multiple leagues, and the WNBA's answer to the most serious incident in that history is one Saturday on the bench, and the refs missing both plays in real time is a whole separate problem that the 1-game suspension does not touch at all, because upgrading a foul after the game does not give Clark her health back and does not give the Fever those 2 points back either, and post-game review catches things sure, but it cannot protect.
This is ridiculous. The league does not want to clean itself up. This league does not want to grow. This league does not want to further itself and better itself. Upon post-game review, the Phoenix Mercury's Alyssa Thomas had received a flagrant foul 2 penalty and 1-game suspension for recklessly making contact with her fist to the throat area of Indiana Fever Caitlin Clark.
Players while the game is actually happening, and that is the part that needs fixing, because other leagues have worked this out, with the NHL having specific protocols for dangerous contact to the head and the NFL running an escalating discipline system for repeat offenders that actually changes player behavior because the cost goes up every time, while the WNBA's approach of reviewing things after the fact and handing out the minimum sends a very clear message to every physical player in the league that the price for hurting Clark is 1 missed game, and President Kelly Kroskoff publicly praised the league's review process after the suspension came down, which is the kind of statement that sounds like support without actually demanding anything change, because praising a process that just produced a 1-game suspension for a throat punch is not advocacy for Clark but cover for the league, and the league really cannot afford to look like it is not protecting Clark, because Clark is the reason the WNBA's numbers look the way they do right now, with viewership records, sold-out arenas, and mainstream media attention all connecting directly back to Clark being in the league and being must-watch every single night, and the league's response to her getting punched in the throat on camera was 1 game, which means every team in the WNBA now knows exactly what it costs to put her on the floor, and Clark is going to come back, but none of that changes what actually happened.
Now, not only do they have the treatment for the last 3 years, and now they got last night, but even worse, the pathetic suspension makes this look even worse. It makes it look terrible. The league has no self-awareness whatsoever. It's crazy.
Because Clark's own head coach used to coach the player who punched her in the throat and publicly told the world that physicality is where you get Clark, and then responded to a violent on-court incident by saying she did not see it live, while the league gave Thomas 1 game and White gave Clark a press conference.